very good afternoon and a warm welcome to the CNBC Africa special, where we're coming to you live from the Durban Business Fair taking place in KwaZulu-Natal's economic hub, the city of Durban. Well, as they say in this part of town, Sanbonani, I'm Gugulethu, Mfuphi. Well, as mentioned, we are here at the Durban Business Fair taking place for the 16th annual time this year, and we're here to unpack what it is that the eThekwini Municipality is doing to unpack the potential that is possessed by small and medium enterprises. But not only that, we're also going to find out how these enterprises, not only based in eThekwini as well as at the greater KZN province, but those in South Africa as well, how they can compete on a global scale. Well, to do just that, I'm joined by my distinguished panelists this afternoon, Shabashni Manohar. She's the Associate Director at Management Consulting for KPMG. We've also got Councillor Nomvuzo Shabalala, Deputy Mayor here at the eThekwini Municipality, Andrew Lehman, Chief Executive of the Durban Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and to the far left there is Anna Marie Wills, Chief Executive and founder of Creative Industries Development Agency. Well, at this juncture, we also like to call you to participate in this conversation. So get tweeting if you're one of those tech-savvy individuals out there by using the hashtag DBF2014, hashtag DBF2014. Well, to get the conversation going, now let's start off with the key question, which is obviously the current economic landscape with regard to SMMEs. Shabashni, I take it you best positions to lay the foundation with regard to this. When you liaise with SMMEs in this particular region of the world, what are they telling you at the moment?
There still seems to be a number of challenges experienced by the SMEs in South Africa. In a recent investment initiative conducted by KPMG a few weeks ago, we actually had the opportunity of getting first-hand experience in terms of what exactly were these challenges. Do they still feel that the current state is fragile? What is the future of these SMEs? And the answers that have come forward to us is really that SMEs still feel that the commitment from government is not there. They still feel that their access to markets is a problem and is a key challenge area. They feel that access to funding is really something that actually stops them to actually get going and kick off their business. So a number of challenges have been put forward to us, as well as areas where they think government should come forward. So with this comes very much of declining confidence levels. What has happened as a result of this is that SMEs have now been a bit more cautious, so they don't want to outlay any more funding, resulting in a very bleak future for them. However, I guess with the introduction of the Small Business Ministry, I've seen that, and in conversations with the SMEs, I've seen that there has been a bit of positivity coming through, because they have now seen that they've been heard. The Small Business Ministry has been set up to help answer those questions, get rid of the red tape that's been inhibiting them from getting started. So that's really from our last discussions with the SMEs.
A lot of challenges highlighted, though. Before I go to the Deputy Mayor to get her feedback from government's point of view, I'd like to come to you, Andrew, just to unpack it further, because you deal with the Durban Chamber of Commerce and Industry, so no doubt you deal with the big boys and the smaller players in the industry. Do they echo the sentiments that have been shared by...
That's exactly right. The Chamber has to serve the needs of the one-person business as well as the biggest companies in Durban. We're very active in the small business development area, and we are engaged in some programs with the municipality, in fact. But what we've been doing more recently is to showcase some of the catalytic projects which are available in Durban. We've spent 2 days with an investment roadshow where we've had delegates representing investors who have been shown the areas where these projects are sited and what's available for them. Now, I think what's very important here is to understand that the small business sector is only going to grow at a kind of pace that we need if the economy as a whole grows. So the catalytic projects, the big business involvement in order to create work for subcontractors and for smaller businesses, very important for the expansion of the economy in the longer term. I mean, that's what the Chamber's trying to promote, that it's not just about big business, but big business investment creates opportunities for small businesses.
Deputy Mayor, I'd like to bring you into this part of the conversation because so often there's talks about this trust deficit that takes place between business, labour, as well as the state. But I take it events like this, the Durban Business Fair, actually counteract and vindicate such claims.
It does, because we started 16 years ago to have the business fair that we have. At that time, it was not called a business fair, it was called Small Medium Enterprises Fair, because our target was the small and emerging business people, to give them a platform whereby they can be able to exhibit and showcase what they can be able to do as their own business people, and also to empower them, give them skills of managing their own businesses, because those are some of the challenges that people want to be in business, but they can't really be able to understand how to manage their businesses once they've started the businesses. So in terms of us partnering with the companies like KPMGs and others, and Deloitte and Touche and others, it assists us for the purposes of mentoring those small, medium enterprises that are still growing, to give them the empowerment in terms of understanding the field that they're entering into.
It's interesting you mentioned mentorship and partnership, because you're also partnering up with individuals from as far, far away as where Anna Marie comes from. And maybe you can bring your perspective from an international point of view. The Durban Business Fair, it's trying by all means and with all its might and receiving a lot of cooperation to boost the SMME environment in South Africa. Are we a long way off from competing against our global counterparts?
Well, I'm not sure that really I'm qualified to answer that. What I think I have observed here, this is my second visit here, and I ran a 2-day innovation program at the university with 60 SMEs in April. And I was really, Deputy Mayor opened that event, if you recall. And they all came back on the second day, I'm glad to say, which, you know, often doesn't happen, particularly when the second day is a Saturday. But what was really interesting was the hunger and the dedication that those people running those small businesses had. And I think that's one of the things that you find when you're working in small businesses, that there's a huge amount of personal investment in the value of what they're doing. And if we can capture that energy and match it with expertise, then you have the recipe for the potential for success. But there's a huge amount of good relationship that needs to be built between the small and the big business. Small businesses very often exist in the shadow of the big businesses. But, you know, for example, in my particular business, which is predominantly on the creative sector side, we have 94% employ less than 5 people, 6% are the big boys. And so that's it's a really disproportionate. You think of Universal Music and you think of Saatchi and Saatchi, some of the big companies, but millions and millions of small businesses, but who exist to develop the ideas and to develop the services that the big boys can effectively buy up and get rich from. So, you know, it is absolutely intermeshed. One can't work without the other. And the expertise that the big boys have had, that if they're sharing on the mentoring programs, on the advice programs, on the kind of partnership programs, all becomes really critical to supporting the SME group. But what's also interesting, and this is something that Europe has discovered, is that predominantly the European economy has moved to the service economy. We don't really have a manufacturing economy as you do here anymore. And what in the heart of the service economy, what they've discovered is that many of the small businesses are masters of innovation. And so they are using and investing in the small business, small creative businesses particularly, to take the capacity for innovation thinking into the bigger businesses. Because the big boys, you know, a bit like big ships, hard to turn around. And so the big issue of how does a big company deal with the mavericks that are always the source of innovation? And for a long while, they dealt with them by spinning them out. Every time somebody in Microsoft came up with an idea that wasn't core, they were spun off, they were taken out of Microsoft. But actually the big boys, I think, I'm sure you'll agree with me, have got much cleverer now about capturing those ideas and learning how to work with the maverick within the business who will identify the new marketplaces.
Andrew, can we unpack that further? You were agreeing quite strongly there with Anna Marie's sentiments.
Absolutely. I think that the modern way of doing business is to try and get creative people, entrepreneurs, if you like,
Yes.
who can in fact develop these creative ideas within the context of a corporate structure. And corporate structures are indeed sometimes quite immobile, but I think a lot of the bigger companies are now learning that there's some very clever people out there that they need to keep within their organization. So they give those people much greater freedom in terms of working hours and their general working regimen. You know, they don't sit at desks from 8 until 5 anymore. They're allowed to work on their laptops and their tablets at home, for example, and they are encouraged to come up with these ideas. So big business is certainly buying into creativity, but there's enough to go around, make no mistake. So there's always space for innovation among the small businesses.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing that the IBM survey of chief executives, the global survey of chief executives they do every year, most recently they identified creativity as the single most important characteristic for future success. And these are the big boys, who are identifying. So we need each other. We need each other.
I actually want to check if this does require incentives, Deputy Mayor.
That is the reason, as the city, we have decided that to have this platform of the small business fair, it cannot just be the small business people alone. We need the bigger business to be part of the exhibition. Reason it's for that they have to be connecting. And we are not only looking at the local business people connecting to themselves only. As we said, we have also sister city relations. We wanted them to connect internationally so that they can be able to sell their product even in the international. Take, for example, for the guy that is going to come now to give us the information in terms of how successful his business has been since 2007. That is one example that is not only trading in South Africa, now he's trading in the entire continent. That shows that this platform of connecting businesses, small, medium, and the bigger businesses, it's one of the idea that is really working on our behalf. Because we as government, we believe that we are not only the one who have the solution in terms of solving the issue of unemployment, poverty, and inequalities. But we have other people that can contribute, and these are the people, the business sector, creating these platforms. They are going to be able to assist in terms of making sure that they employ as many people as possible.
Exactly. I want to come back to comments shared by Anna Marie. You mentioned creativity, according to the latest index, is something that a lot of the bigger players in the industry are definitely paying attention to. When we take a look at the over 500 exhibitors that we have here, how many of them are relevant in the international space, though? Because it's easy to start up a business, while not in so many words in a country like South Africa, but how do they gain that competitive advantage to go under the wing of a big player and compete on a global space? Shabashni?
Well, I've seen that there's been a clear difference between the small businesses that have actually received mentorships from big businesses. You can see a distinct differences, not only in terms of how they actually operate, but in terms of the structures that they have now learned to have in place in order to make their businesses a lot more structured. So I think if that is actually pegged and small businesses receive such mentorships from big businesses, then their competitive advantage and moving into, globally, they would be a lot more successful. However, those who do not receive that mentorship still continue operating without the formal structures, the formal processes, which actually sets them back. And then they do not have the competitive advantages. 38% of businesses fail in their first year of startup. And that's really because they haven't planned properly, they haven't looked at the future, they haven't put in proper structures that could take them forward. However, with the big brother, if I could call it, as the big business taking care of the small businesses up to a point that they can operate on their own, I think that definitely gives them the competitive advantage. And we've seen that in a number of our interactions with small businesses. There is definitely a clear distinction between those who have not received it and those who have received it.
I want us to go to a tweet. It does seem as though, Deputy Mayor?
Maybe I can come in there, is that as we are creating this platform, we are saying the 2 days workshop that is prior the exhibition. That workshop, the aim of the workshop is exactly the issue of empowerment for the smaller businesses to understand what is it that is going to be doing in terms of making sure that the sustainability of his business is going to be there for a longer period, rather than to have people who want to be in business just because they have seen their friends being business people. You have to have a passion and you have to have the knowledge. And if we don't equip people about that, then that becomes a problem. So that is the reason as the city we create this platform whereby people like our international guests will come and share and give that knowledge to the people so that they can be able to say that, well, I'm starting to exhibiting, but from this exhibition, this is what I've achieved.
Just to pick up on a question, it does seem as though we've got some participants roving on the floor who have sent through a question, and they would actually like to know what our international or what local SMMEs, can learn from their international counterparts when it comes to growing and development. Anna Marie, I think you might be slightly better positioned to answer this one.
Well, the whole business about working internationally is changing so much in my world, and I think South Africa seems to me, Durban seems to me to be kind of on the cusp of change, you know. So what used to happen is if you wanted to work internationally, the government support agency, Business Inc. it was called, used to say to you, well, run your company in England for 10 years, get good at what you do, develop your marketplace, do your research, and then see if you want to go and work internationally. And what's happened in Europe is because the balance has changed away from manufacturing based, when you're dealing with service industries and knowledge industries, you don't have the massive equipment, you don't have the massive plant, you don't have that huge kind of investment that's necessary to take your work overseas, to export your goods. So nowadays it's much easier. When I come out here, I bring my suitcase because everything I'm bringing is up here. And that's true for most of the people working in knowledge and service industries. So the whole business about being able to work internationally is very different these days. And I think what happened to us, if I just tell you very quickly, when I set up my company 15 years ago, we set it up specifically to get creativity into business and business into creativity. That's what we do. And we put a website up because in those days, 2000, everybody had a website. Nobody knew what they were for, but you did it anyway. So we put the website up, and within a year, we were getting a phone call saying, are you the creative industries? So we would say yes, because you wouldn't say no, would you? And then suddenly we started getting countries approaching us, governments approaching us to build creative and knowledge economies, businesses approaching us to understand how to make their business more effective, how to compete better, and third sector people wanting to grow the social side of the capital of the country, you know, because the work that I do has both an economic and a social impact. Exactly. So without any effort on our part, people started coming to us. So suddenly we had to sit down and say, we've got to make sense of this. But I think at the session I've just done, we've just had a really interesting session across the road talking about international marketing. But prior to that, there must have been 50 or 60 companies who did a 2-minute pitch to the audience. And, you know, they get hit with a double whammy. Not only have they got to do a pitch on their business for 2 minutes, but they've actually got to speak in public to an audience of 100 or more. So that's quite scary stuff if you're not used to it, you know. So I thought they did really well, but what came across was the passion and the commitment and the courage to look for new markets. And really, that's what we're talking, that's your starting point. Because most small businesses try to sell their goods and services within a 30-mile diameter, certainly in Europe, and it's probably not that much different here. And actually realizing that international markets are much more accessible than they used to be is one of the first lessons, having the courage to chase it.
Exactly, and I take it that's where the excitement comes in, Andrew, because we have sister cities like Chicago as well as New Orleans.
Yes, indeed. I mean, I think it's very important to catch the global wave, as it were, because it certainly exists. And once a company, a small business, gets over the intimidation of engaging with foreign companies, I think it's probably something that they can learn quite quickly, and it's certainly lucrative. Just to go back to a point that I want to make, though, is about a mindset that needs to be cultivated in this country, I think, to break through a kind of glass ceiling which seems to operate too frequently, that a lot of our business startups do so within a context of imitation. They do something that somebody else has done successfully. And as a result of that, the market kind of gets saturated and they never do as well as they should. So the key really, I suppose, is to break through that glass ceiling with innovation. Now, the eThekwini Municipality, in fact, has made a very conscious effort to embrace innovation. And I think it's an aspect of entrepreneurship that we've got to nurture, because that might well be the key to growing the small business sector more aggressively.
Innovation, innovation, innovation. I'd like us to touch on our counterparts on a global scale once more, the BRICS group of nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, including South Africa at the end there. And so often, sometimes China is viewed as the competitor because they come into South Africa, they produce goods a lot cheaper than what we do here in South Africa. We import them, and some of them have opened up several malls around here. Now that's good for trade, but how do we encourage our local businesses to continue building that relationship with them and not viewing it as a threat, but rather the opportunity? Deputy Mayor, I'm not sure if you want to tackle this.
Yeah, in fact, that's why we want to encourage our own people to say that as the city we have taken an initiative to say that in the past we used to be the biggest in terms of the textile industry. And that industry has shrunk a little bit. Now we have an effort to say that we want to investigate, to have our own study that is focusing on the textile industry, because without textile industry we won't be able to produce any goods, because you have to have the material, you have to have all those stuff. Then we believe that in that we will be able to encourage more of our people, other than to sit and be complainant to say that there's a lot of cheap stuff that is coming from China. We are a global competitor now. We have to contest our space there. And if we don't have and we don't know, how are we going to be contesting our space as the South Africans in terms of standing up and doing these things that used to happen in the past? And we want to make sure that we capacitate our own people so that they can take those hubs. You know, in the past you would know that in the area of New Germany, towards between Claremont and Pinetown, that used to be the industrial hub, where you'll find the frame techs and all those other companies coming to the city. Dalbridge used to be big in terms of those. And why now? Why can't we encourage our people to say that you have the opportunity? There are a lot of opportunities. It's only that it's waiting for the people to grab those opportunities and stand up and access this information so that they can be able to sustain their businesses.
Deputy Mayor Andrew, as well as Anna Marie, we've got 3 minutes before we get to an ad break. So I'd like to get your closing comments on the SMME sector in South Africa and where you think we will be in the next 5 years. Very quickly, within 30 seconds, okay. Deputy Mayor.
I think in the next 5 years, as you can see that we have grown from 100 exhibitors to 555. In terms of the SMMEs, we are very vigorous as the city. That is the sector that we need to grow, because our record tells us that the informal economy has been doing very well in our city, irrespective of what are other problems. So it means we have to make sure that we put all efforts that we have to grow this economy, because we believe that these people can be able to compete with the bigger businesses in the near future.
Indeed. Andrew, very quickly, your closing remarks?
No alternative. If we don't grow the small business sector, we'll never resolve our unemployment issues. So we have no alternative but to make every effort to make sure that we grow small businesses very aggressively.
Anna-Marie, your closing comments?
Well, I think one of the great advantages of small businesses is they can move fast. So as the world changes and our business environment changes around us, it's the small businesses that will be out in front really responding to that. There are three absolute characteristics that you need if you're running a small business. One is courage, because it's a lonely, hard, terrifying life, lying awake at night wondering how you're going to pay next week's salary bill, you know, and there's no one there to help you. So courage, absolutely critical. Confidence, even if you're feeling not so good, you give an appearance of confidence. You have confidence that you're reaching out for the markets and that you can make the change. And the third thing is competence. So understanding that once you set up a business, you're in it for the long haul. So it's not a question of bringing your today's expertise, because tomorrow that'll be out of date. So innovation and constant learning, those are the things that I think will strengthen and build the small market here, small business market. 3
C's, no doubt, to live by: courage, confidence, and competence. I take it that's what we'll be going away with. So we are excited, we're energized, and we will continue with this discussion in the second half. But I'd like to say thank you to our panelists, starting off with Councillor Nomvuzo Shabalala, Deputy Mayor of eThekwini Municipality, Andrew Lehman, Chief Executive of the Durban Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and Anna-Marie Wills, Chief Executive and Founder of Creative Industries Development Agency. Ladies and gents, thank you so much for joining us. Shabashni, you'll be staying with us for the second half of this conversation. Stay with us as we are here at the 16th Annual Durban Business Fair taking place in Durban. That is the city, the economic hub of KwaZulu-Natal. Don't go anywhere. We'll continue with this conversation after the break. Sanbonani, and a warm welcome back to the CNBC Africa Special. We'll be coming to you live from the 16th Annual Durban Business Fair taking place here in the city of Durban. Well, we will continue with this second half of the panel discussion, but we still want to get your feedback going on Twitter. You can use the hashtag DBF2014 and pose your questions, suggestions and comments to our panel. Well, as you may be aware, Shabashni Manohar, Associate Director, Management Consulting at KPMG, she's still with us here to the left. Towards the center is Thulani Nzama, Deputy Head at eThekwini Municipality. The lady between the thorns there, the rose, Thato Tsautse, MD of Tsautse Bayi Incorporated, and the entrepreneur towards the end of the seating arrangement there is Ntokozo Biyela, founder of Mzansi Mobiles. Well, we did kick off the first half of this discussion taking a look at the global competitiveness of SMEs in South Africa as well as in the eThekwini municipality space. But to touch on some important figures that we've recently been released, South Africa is a country which unfortunately is going through an economic slowdown. Recently we had the economic growth rate being downgraded from 1.7% to 1.5% from the MPC. Inflationary pressures are growing on business owners, and maybe, Ntokozo, you can give us your perspective as to how an entrepreneur can remain optimistic when there's just so much going on. It's the labor environment, it's the strikes, it's the poor growth. How do you still keep your head above water?
The most important thing as an entrepreneur is to put your eggs in different baskets. We need to find entrepreneurs that solve the public's problems, and that is how basically we can grow our economy and also look beyond the borders of South Africa, like how we did as Mzansi Mobile Fridges. We started in Durban, then we went national, and then we went international, because we saw the need that as a company we need to look beyond Durban and start spreading our wings throughout the African continent.
Just on that, there's a lot of infrastructure, Thato, that you can elaborate on that we should be taking advantage of that can allow that reach into the rest of the continent.
Yes. I've been looking more around the port area because I think that's where my specialty lies. Most of the time, cities forget that around them, the port, they have infrastructure issues that they can be addressing. Like, for instance, Durban. Durban, we have the biggest port in South Africa. I would even say we have the biggest container terminal in the Southern Hemisphere and the busiest in Africa. But however, most of the time we get to be so removed because of the structure of the way that we do things. For instance, the port in South Africa is not operated by the city, but operated by government, by the national government. But however, there are so many opportunities that we had and have in terms of ensuring that we play as a city around the port. There are a number of indirect activities that we can start playing around in the port. We are talking about a dig-out port that's going to be happening in Durban at the old airport site. There's going to be so much of activity around that in terms of infrastructure development. We are supposed to be readying our people to be able to take opportunity in that. We've just developed a port in South Africa at Ngqura, and we are supposed to be asking Ngqura to give us a benchmark, to give us learnings as to how they did it so that we can be able to position our people as the city of Durban. But importantly, there is so much that's happening in the port area. There's the dredging of the berths currently that is happening. Transnet has put so much of capital to ensure that we upgrade our ports to be much more competitive, globally competitive. We have a port mouth that can take 18 meters depth, but our quaysides are not are only taking about 12.5 meters. So there is so much that's happening to try and to match the port mouth as well as our quayside. And again, if you look at who is playing in that area, I can say without any hesitation, it's not the people of Durban who are playing in that area. So we need to be saying to ourselves, how can we address the issue of meltdown in the city by massaging our economy using a number of infrastructure developments that are happening around us. But the major ones that are happening around the port.
If I'm a small business owner, my first question that comes to mind, Thulani, is how do you take advantage of this? How do you position yourself? Do you speak to the municipality first and then make your way to the big players who work in and around these big infrastructure projects?
No, thanks. I think the way we position ourselves is just to form strategic partnerships with this organization. Thato mentioned Transnet. What we've also done, we formed partnership with Transnet around the supplier development program. How do we make these entrepreneurs, how do we gear them to be ready for these opportunities that will be taking place in the next 5 to 10 years? So we've also had roadshows going out right through to the ward level, at the regional level, Transnet taking them through, not only Transnet, but I think us as a municipality, because we need to complement what Transnet, whoever is doing in terms of providing infrastructure. Basic services like water, because this project cannot take place without those basic facilities. So that is how we come in, and also bringing on board the small entrepreneurs. Hence, we are having an event like this today to create a platform whereby there will be business linkages between the corporate as well as the small businesses, and also for sharing information, because whilst they are here having these stands over here, people can come and source the information from these big companies to know what projects are on the pipeline, and order to meet the requirement, what is it that I need to do as a small business.
Shabashni, to come to you for a moment, do you find that maybe there needs to be more incentives given to either the small businesses or the big players in the industry to help each other and to find synergies with which to work on?
I definitely think that more incentives are necessary. However, I also think that there's a lack of knowledge with the small businesses around the incentives that are in place. So perhaps getting them aware of what is actually in place, as well as the commitment from the small businesses in themselves, in investing in themselves, and finding out as to what these incentives are. And as I said, first-hand experience and discussions with SMEs, you actually find that a number of them do not know what incentives there are out there. And even when it comes to mentorship programs, a lot of them don't know who the big businesses are that offer these. So there's a lot of awareness that needs to be created among small businesses so that they can take advantage of it. More incentives are always great. However, I think let's try and make do with what's available. Let's create awareness among small businesses so that they can take advantage of it. But I think I cannot emphasize more the need for planning from small businesses. As you mentioned, the whole economic downturn and how it's affected small businesses. Some of them have actually got to the point of shutdown, and that really comes from poor planning. They have not assessed risks that are out there. Those who engage or contract abroad have not looked at the forex risks that they are exposed to. So proper planning upfront can actually put them in a position to where there's negative economic activity, and actually helps them to be in a position so that they can go through the negative times. I wouldn't say profitably, but I would say breaking even at least.
Even, or at least moving towards profitability.
Yes.
But what's interesting is that the key words are diversification and globalization and access to the overall international market. To come back to you, Ntokozo, you, back in 2007, from what we've heard, you were one of these exhibitors here on the floor. Coming to you now, you've got a company that has operations across the continent. From back then to now, what has changed? How has the private sector, the eThekwini Municipality, as well as the infrastructural development that we have, policies, how has all of that played together in order to help you and your business reach such great success?
When we started getting into business, the Durban Business Fair was the springboard to what we have now. So back in 2007, this is where we started advertising our products. We only had 2 guys working for us and just 1 unit for exhibition. And over the years, we were exhibiting here at the Durban Business Fair. We were then introduced to other national exhibitions within the country. And then from there, we got a springboard to exhibit in Africa. We currently are employing about 15 people permanently. We are based in Durban. We manufacture our units, mobile fridges, kitchens, toilets, bars, and butcheries. And we distribute them throughout the 9 provinces. But 2 years ago, 2 to 3 years ago, we started getting interest from the African countries like Botswana, DRC, Angola, Mauritius, Swaziland, and Lesotho. So we've established some linkages with those countries, and now we export to those countries. Last week, we had an inquiry from a guy from the US, United States of America, who is interested in importing these to the US because of the price difference and distributing them there. So it tells you that when you start exhibiting at the Durban Business Fair, doors will open up for you, and then you need to grab those opportunities and make sure that you infiltrate not only South Africa, but the entire African continent and even the world.
Exciting story there. But I want to come to a question that we managed to get from Twitter, where one wants to know, how do you avoid the stigma which is associated with being an entrepreneur? Because in South Africa, when you fail as an entrepreneur, it's almost seen as a badge of dishonor. It's not worn with success like it is in the US, where they encourage people to open up their businesses. Thulani, just to come to you, from the municipality's perspective, do you allow those who stumble across the way to come back, rework their skills and tread on that path of entrepreneurship again?
Yes, we do. At times, as a municipality, we appoint contractors to do the infrastructure development. Due to some certain challenges, they'll end up not being able to deliver. So we do have some programs whereby we intervene and assist, maybe only to find out the only lack was around maybe the cash flow management, or it's around basic business management skills. Then we start introducing those programs to rescue the project, because it's in the interest of the small business and also in the interest of us as a municipality. We also intervene at times, even if the projects that are not related to the municipality, it could be the private sector development. That is where we come in. And also, we also run programs across the board to assist these entrepreneurs on such challenges. Like here today, we've got the developmental financial institutions and the financial institutions assisting the entrepreneurs. Yes, we know that at times there is that associated stigma of the entrepreneurs. People, that is why we say as entrepreneurs you should be prepared to take risk. If you say you're prepared to take risks, chances are that there could be positive outcomes, there could be negative outcomes. We always bring, the motivational speakers to come and keep on encouraging them. Successful businesses people to say, look, when I started, I had some shortfalls. My business went down the drain in 2 years, but I did not give up. I went ahead, I started mobilizing friends, getting skills, because you need to go back to the post-mortem and see what is it that went wrong. Then thereafter start coming up with remedial action. So those are some of the interventions, and we always encourage people, look, there's always a first time and you must never give up. Even if you've got an idea or a dream in your mind, you must keep on pushing till such time that something happens.
Thato, to come to you, if I'm not mistaken, your expertise also lie in law, if I'm not mistaken. The rate that you happen to see where you liaise with SMMEs and the legal documents, is there also still a lack of understanding there? Because Shabashni did mention in the first half that there's just a lack of information. So whether it's due to ignorance or whether not being exposed to that kind of information, when it comes to legalities and policies and regulation, is that a shortfall of SMMEs?
I would say that it's really, I wouldn't call it a shortfall per se. That's why you have lawyers, that's why you have accountants, that's why you have a number of people who are skilled in a certain area. For me, what is really missing is a collective of these people coming together to assist our business people, more especially the SMMEs, so that they could just concentrate on what they do best. Most of the entrepreneurs are much more focused on their idea or in execution of their idea. What we are really lacking is bringing in a leg in the enterprise development of a support system where you bring these professionals who are going to be able to support these entrepreneurs to be able to execute their business. If you can really bring a team of an accountant, a lawyer, say a counselor or a team of people who can support an entrepreneur whilst he's busy doing his job, in my own view, that is not going to fail. But also, half of the time what I normally see is people who love to know legalistic issues or accounting issues without really running to the people who've been trained to know that. I'm not saying people are not supposed to be au fait with the subject, but I'll always say this: go to the best person who can give you the best advice on what you need to be doing. If you are sick, you do not sit at home, you run to a doctor. So if your business needs to be rescued or to be assisted, you need to have a team below you. I'll always moot for this. In enterprise development, in anything that we do, try and bring a team together that's going to be supporting the people that either you're incubating or that you are trying to assist to be in business. And in that, you will be seeing so much of growth. But we tend to just simply assist the person without really putting proper structures to assist them. There's no one who can say, I'm the best tax expert at the same time I'm doing what Ntokozo is doing in his business. If he has to be assisted, he will need somebody who's au fait with tax issues, who can be able to represent him with SARS. And when it comes to bookkeeping, you need somebody who's well-trained. And if you have to address issues with SIPs on your returns, you need a lawyer to assist you in doing those returns. For me, really, it is about us getting to another level of really addressing issues of SMME development.
That's valuable advice, but for someone who doesn't have the appropriate amount of capital, at what cost does that come at?
Can I just share with you? I'm also a managing director of eThekwini Maritime Cluster, where we're doing enterprise development on the maritime side or on the shipping side. We are going to be launching our incubator shortly, and our incubator model is premised on that, where we are saying, you are an SMME, yours possibly is to provide food to the ships that call into Durban. Nothing else. Concentrate on that. The incubator is going to try and assist you with all the elements that I've just spoken to you about. And it's not just going to be about the incubatees only. We are coming up with a package for SMMEs who are not going to be part of the incubation program to say, this is what you need for you to be able to succeed. You need to be able to do this. eThekwini Maritime Cluster is a I won't call them an agency, but it's a baby of eThekwini Municipality, where they said, bring the industry together and be able to bring in people who will really love to be part of the maritime sector. And what I'm saying is, if we can be able to do it in our little corner, a number of people who are working in this arena can be able to copy. This is not something that's going to be a copyright for eThekwini Maritime Cluster, but it can assist so many businesses, and you'll see so much of traction to a number of businesses who can really be able to be sustained. I understand that a number of businesses die on their first year. They die because there is not proper support structure. A baby will die if there's no proper food for the baby, if there isn't any proper place and temperature for the baby, and that's what one is supposed to be looking into.
Valuable insights there. I want to come to you, Ntokozo, just on that, the Maritime Association there, as well as other large corporates like Transnet, managing to work with small businesses. Do you think when it comes to entrepreneurs that they're not looking for the gap in the market? Just because I can do nails, I want to open up a nail salon, but it doesn't necessarily compete or service the needs that are needed in the industry?
Yes, I find that a lot of entrepreneurs or SMMEs want to be jack of all trades, just like Thato said. I know my strong points. I'm an entrepreneur, I'm not an accountant, and I'm not a lawyer. So one needs to, when they start their business, is to invest money in systems. So if you know that you're not good at something, find somebody who's an expert in that, because it will save you cost and save you time and save you a lot of money going forward. You don't want to be dabbling in that when your business is starting, because you will waste time and then pay a lot at the end of it. We have gone to a route where we're trying to partner with the corporates and give them ideas on how they can use their CSI spend and how they can use their enterprise development funds in cultivating an entrepreneurship culture in South Africa. We also are trying to work with government in trying to sort the problems that government has, one of them being the toilet problems in schools and in settlements. And we're trying to come up with a solution, a self-sustainable ablution system for schools. So that is where it will create employment throughout the country and even throughout Africa. So entrepreneurs tend to bog down and look at the problems they have at that particular point in time. And what that does is it blocks you from thinking beyond the box that you have. You need to be able to look at what's happening around you so that you can be able to take whatever you make and invest it elsewhere or grow your boundaries and not just concentrate on one area.
Thulani, to come back to you here, it does seem as though you're getting a lot of ideas and suggestions to take back to the newly appointed small business ministry that's being settled.
Yes, so, those are good ideas. But that is why we keep on preaching the issue of innovation and creativity. Because in order for you to compete globally, you must be innovative. Like you said, if you're doing nails, then the next person is also doing nails. That's not the route to go. So we need to start thinking creatively. That is why we're also coming up with programs like what Thato referred to, the incubation programs, trying to look at the models, you know, like the Silicon Valleys, the science parks, because the challenges, like you rightfully said, around research and development, around this expertise. So that is why the government, through this BE legislation, they are saying if it's enterprise development or what, the corporate or the private sector, I mean, they'll be hand-holding you, looking after you, because it's also in their best interest. And for them to do business with you, they are looking at quality. So in order for you to produce quality results, they need to be there. Because, I mean, previously the issue was that the challenges around access to funding, access to markets, of which day by day is changing. But we've realized now the issue is more, the lack is on mentorship, because you can get the funding, that 3 million or 4 million. But if you don't execute it according to your business plan and you don't have someone next to you assisting you, hand-holding you right from the beginning till the end, then you've got a problem. That is why now, even in terms of the funding that is approved, there's that element of mentorship to say you need to have a mentor that will be looking after you at least for the next 2 years. Hopefully that after 2 years, then you'll be okay. You can be able to operate on your own.
And that is the whole idea of the Durban Business Fair. Shabashni, just to come to you, we do see some corporates out here who are financial institutions out here, obviously, to offer service to small business owners. But from your perspective, are they filling the other gaps that Thulani has spoken about, the mentorship, the insights, and finding professionals to help you along the way, as mentioned by Thato?
There are a number of corporates that are filling gaps, KPMG being one of them, where we actually go in and provide free consulting advice to small businesses just to create the awareness. And the reason why we thought that it was necessary to do this is because a business advisor is the last thing that a small business wants to pay for. Affordability is a huge aspect of it. Selling their product, incurring costs that directly relate to their products and their services is all what small businesses are interested in paying for. As much as the financial aspect as well as the management of your business is critical, it is the last thing that a small business looks at. And hence we've actually gone in and advised small businesses just to create that awareness of the importance of such financial advice, management of your business, and then to actually bring out how it could improve small business operations. A number of corporates are involved. There are excellent mentorship programs that are around, and with these mentorship programs come a number of training sessions. We conduct a lot of classroom training as well as on-the-job training. So after you actually conduct training sessions, you go out to the small business and sit with them and side by side basically take them through a process. So these are the type of on the job, sitting together with the small business owner, because we must realize that not every small business owner has a financial background. In fact, the business owner is everyone in his business. He is the marketing person, he is the financial person, he's everything. And I think it should actually come from the corporates to actually identify that. We know that. It's information that we actually do have. To actually take that step and that initiative to help these businesses, mentor them and take them down the right path.
Just very quickly, we've got a minute before we go, so I'd like to get your closing insights as to the future of SMMEs in South Africa and their global competitiveness. We've got a minute, so about 20 seconds each. Shabashni, very quickly, from your perspective.
I definitely think that the future is positive with the introduction of the Small Business Ministry and the commitment that we are seeing from government. I also see good commitment coming through from the small businesses who want to grow and want to take the advice. So definitely, you know, with all of these measures and these initiatives that corporates are taking, I see definitely a positive future for small business enterprise.
Some light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Thulani?
Our role as a municipality is just to ensure that the local business are competing globally. Hence, then we've got programs like even within this Durban Business Fair, the International Pavilion kiosk, whereby small business can be able to interact with international companies. We also run workshops, intra-Africa trade workshops or intra-continent workshops, whereby we encourage them. And we also got some fashion development programs. Currently, we've got people that are in London exhibiting, even all over Africa, to say the world out over there is open for you. Go out over there and do business.
Thulani, unfortunately, we have to leave it there. So, Thato, we know your insights. Find an expert, and from yourself and Ntokozo, innovation, and find things that are relevant, no doubt. Well, that's where we leave it for today. Coming to you live from the 16th Annual Durban Business Fair here in the city of eThekwini. And we've heard the insights and the knowledge from the experts being shared. And on that note, we leave it there for today. For CNBC Africa, I'm Gugulethu Mfuphi. We wish you a wonderful day further.